Marge Obit from San Gervasi. This is the Rorschach, Georgia update from the 3rd of October, 2024. Quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Transparency International, one of the largest non-governmental organizations in Georgia, faced a significant setback this week when the Anti-Corruption Bureau classified it as a political entity with declared political goals. The Bureau stated that Transparency International is trying to persuade voters not to support the Georgian Dream, or Otsneba. Says a lot about how they feel about oversight. Eka Gigaodi, executive director of Transparency International, argued that this decision is illegal, which of course it was, imposing on the organization the same obligations required of political parties. Consequently, they would be prohibited from receiving or spending foreign funds, complicating their primary mission of monitoring elections. Since the court refused to overturn the anti-corruption agency's decision, Gigaodi said that they wouldn't be able to monitor elections under the Transparency International name. However, the situation took an unexpected turn. In response to significant international pressure, Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze urged the head of the Anti-Corruption Bureau to reverse the decision. Just a day after Kobakhidze's statement, the decision was indeed overturned. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, expressed his country's willingness to help normalize relations between Georgia, Abkhazia, and South Ossetia. Thanks, Sergei. He praised the current Georgian government for its understanding of history, particularly regarding the 2008 war between Russia and Georgia. He probably meant that Russia was in favor of Otsneba's narrative, which blamed the United National Movement, or Natsebi, for the war, and Bidzina Ivanishvili's statement that Georgians should apologize to Ossetians for the conflict. However, Tbilisi Mayor Kachi Kaladze's response to Lavrov's statements was even more significant than the statement itself, which was predictable and ridiculous. Kaladze said that he and his party viewed Lavrov's comments positively. This led to accusations of treason from opposition parties. According to international law, Abkhazia and South Ossetia are, of course, part of Georgia, and Russia is one of the few countries that has recognized them as independent states, along with something like, Nuaru. So, any proposal that mentions them as independent countries, as was the case by Lavrov, is unlikely to resonate particularly positively with Georgia. Just to prove that point, Edison Research, an international company that does political surveys, particularly for the Georgian TV channel Formula, has published poll results for a new survey. Over 1,200 people were asked in person if they agreed with Bidzina Ivanishvili's statements that Georgians must apologize for the war started by the previous government. The result was a resounding no, with 85% of surveyed giving negative answers. Back to Kaladze. Mayor Tbilisi has closed all his accounts in European banks and moved his multi-million-dollar chunk of capital exclusively to Georgian banks. In response to questions from journalists, Kaladze said that he does not trust European banks anymore. Kaladze said that foreign banks had robbed Bidzina Ivanishvili of his money, referring to the dispute between Ivanishvili and the Swiss bank Credit Suisse. However, also likely that Kaladze is afraid of being placed under sanctions from the EU. Recently, it's been alleged that Kaladze is one of the 60 people who the U.S. has sanctioned. Other news. On Friday the 27th, President Salome Zurabashvili signed an amnesty law pardoning approximately 1,000 prisoners for nonviolent crimes and reducing sentences for several thousand more. However, she expressed concerns that enacting this law so close to the election could be seen as Otsneba's attempt to bribe the families of prisoners. And everybody talks about the incredibly close connection between Otsneba and the Tveli Bichebi on the street. She didn't mention that, but I am. It is alleged that the ruling party is buying the loyalty of individuals with incarcerated relatives, which they are, of course, indeed doing, and is also using released inmates to intimidate their communities into voting for them, which they are also doing. Enacting an amnesty law just before elections has become a tradition under Otsneba. Since we mentioned Zurabashvili on Monday, the 1st of October, she met with Andrzej Duda, Poland's president, in Warsaw. Duda said that everyone was eager to see the decision of the Georgian people, what decision they would make during the parliamentary elections on the 26th of October. He also expressed Poland's support for Georgia's goal of joining the European Union, stating that he had never doubted the Georgian people's desire to join the EU, but emphasized that the country needs a government that shares that ambition. Another controversial law was signed on Thursday, the 3rd of October. This time, it is the law for the, and get this, protection of family values and minors, as if lifted exactly from the U.S. Republicans' playbook, also known as the anti-LGBT law, which prohibits the promotion of non-traditional relationships, whatever that means. because President Zurabashvili refused to sign the law. It was signed by the Speaker of Parliament, Shalva Papuashvili. He stated that while Georgian people are very tolerant, the beliefs and values of the majority must be respected. Picking and choosing when that's applied, I see. He also criticized the president for refusing to fulfill her duty and becoming an opposition figurehead. So, president's duty is not to her constituents, but to pay loyalty to the questionably elected Otsneba government? Interesting. On Thursday, the 26th, the Coalition for Change, Tzvililebistvis, Gvaramia, Melia, Girchi, or the split off from Girchi, Droa, and let's call them Tzvilebistvis, presented its electoral list. Instead of Nika Gvaramia, who was expected to be the number one on the list, it featured Nana Malashkia, who is not a politician, but has managed to become a symbol for pro-Western-oriented people in Georgia. She's often referred to as the woman with the EU flag. Her image has been widely shared both in Georgia and abroad during the anti-Russian law protests in the spring. The image, she's holding an EU flag while being sprayed with a water cannon by police. In contrast, Nika Gvaramia did not appear on the list at all. He stated that there is a common call for new faces in Georgian politics, and he chose to make way for the new generation. Gvaramia emphasized that his role within the party will remain unchanged, and he will continue to work on strengthening the party and fostering new talent in Georgian politics. So let's hear it for the Achali Taoba, and not people like me, the Tzveli Achali Taoba. More on politics, as two of Otsneba's ministers retired during the week. Minister of Education, Georgi Amnekhvari, announced that he wanted to return to the private sector. Good timing, Georgi. He stated that he would continue to support the party as a private citizen. No replacement has been announced. Teatsulukiani, Minister of Culture, left her post. However, she's far from leaving the party. Of course, she is number 6 on Otsneba's electoral list. Lukiani did not provide a specific reason for her resignation, stating simply that the party's leadership had asked her to return to parliament. Election posters continued to be a hot topic. Last week, a scandal erupted over Otsneba's posters, which featured images of destroyed Ukrainian buildings and a message saying, "Don't choose war." This week, one of the leaders of the Natsebi, Georgi Vashadze, announced that a major advertising company, Alma, which owns most of the billboard spaces in Georgia, is refusing to fulfill its contract. Vashadze stated that they had already paid $180,000, but the company is declining to put up posters due to their content. The posters were meant to say, "Get rid of Georgian Dream, get rid of Bidzina Ivanishvili," which seems quite tame compared to the same company printing images of destroyed buildings in Ukraine. Vashadze said the company has deep ties with the ruling party, which it does, and wants to hinder the Natsebi's campaign. In sports news, Ultimate Fighting Championships, or UFC's bantamweight champion Merab the Machine Dvalishvili arrived in Georgia. A crowd of fans greeted him at the airport, then headed directly to Philharmonia, where he proudly showed his championship belt to hundreds of people gathered in the streets. Dvalishvili also discussed 1 million lari, which is around $367,000 US, he received as a gift from the Georgian government, stating his intention to donate the entire amount to charity and support sports development, particularly MMA, in Georgia. With his victory against Sean O'Malley in September, Merab became the second Georgian UFC champion this year, following Ilia Topuria, who has also visited Tbilisi to present his belt to fans. Little scandal erupted over the participation of Georgian freestyle wrestlers in a tournament held in Russia. The issue is that two occupied regions of Georgia, Abkhazia and South Ossetia, were participating in the event, albeit as independent countries. Wrestlers from Ukraine's occupied Crimea were also present. Georgian Federation of Wrestling stated that the organization did not participate in the event and that the wrestlers must have gone there of their own volition. Whether any disciplinary action will be taken against the participating athletes remains to be seen. And that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Before we sign off, the Rorschach HQ subscription monitoring department has learned that one of you has not yet subscribed to this show. FYI, there's been talk of putting this individual on podcast probation. Just a heads up. Not fun, these.